I stand alone, gazing at the stars as they may answer a burning question. I stand alone, gazing at the stars as they may answer a burning question. Where does my son Ali Akbar lie? As alone I wait for my son's return. Alone I stand and alone I ask, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? Within these tents, only my shadow holds on to my heart, and within its hand I gaze out and no one comforts me but an unsure path and the burning silence, and only the stars I have to ask, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? A heart heavy with my screams and cries, and alone I must bear its weight on me. For this rose was everything to me, my path, my future, the soul within me. I bear this weight and with grief I ask, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? With his absence, the whispers in me tell me you're beloved, for you does not care. With his absence, the whispers in me tell me you're beloved, for you does not care. I answer every whisper with hope. I know my absence my beloved can't bear, and yet the doubt in my heart it asks, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? A trail unstained with my son's blood taunts this mother's soul with the hint of death. With every taunt my heart longs to cease and calls for death to take away my breath. A mother with her son's absence asks, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? I raise my hands with tears in my eyes, and my heart it cries, Lord, answer this prayer. I raise my hands with tears in my eyes, and my heart it cries, Lord, answer this prayer. Like you returned Yusuf to Yaqub, return my beloved, my Ali Akbar. And this mother's womb for him it asks, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? How can my eyes settle until they see the portrait of my beloved's beauty? How can my eyes settle until they see the portrait of my beloved's beauty? How can the weight of my heart's dark grief rest when it abides in this tragedy? And every beat of this heart, it asks, will my son return? Will my son return? Will my son return? Many thanks to the poet, Nouri Sardar.
أعظم الله أجرنا وأجركم من مصابنا أبي عبد الله الحسين وعلي بن الحسين عليهم أفضل الصلاة والسلام. Our dearest viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. We send our condolences to the parents of Ali al-Akbar and also to all of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, because this was the man, the scholar, who reminded everyone of his holy grandfather, Khair al-Bariyya, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, our great and dear prophet. So this demise that we commemorate this evening is one that really hurt the family of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. When you have someone that you remember so fondly, whom is the pillar of your faith and of course the pillar of your family, and now you've got someone who reminds you of him in his voice, in his mannerisms, in his characteristics and so forth. To see that individual go through what he then went through is extremely tough. Of course as well for Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, this took place once all the companions had passed away and it was time for the family of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. Ali al-Akbar was the first to go, and that was a very challenging moment for Ahl al-Bayt. So we send our love to the Ahl al-Bayt and our condolences to them on this night. Ali al-Akbar, who I've just found out 27 was his age. I thought it was, sometimes it's usually known to be a little bit younger. I thought he was in early 20s, but 27. An age that's 2 days away from me, which kind of, again, it wakes you up, right? You know, that whole, another time in Karbala, and you're kind of starting to think already, like, whoa, I'm far off 27. I'm far off where he was, given that I'm 27. This piece talking about the concept that maybe his mother was praying for him to return, right? And that's a big, again, a big theme in the Masa'ib that is generally narrated.
I mean, one of the things that we hear in the Maqatil is that the dua of a mother is very powerful, and Imam Hussein wanted to make that clear to the generations after Karbala, that don't, even though in a situation of trials and tribulations, don't underrate the dua of your mother. So go to your mother and say to her, look, mother, this is my situation. I'm going through a bit of a trial or an issue. Please pray for me. Dua al-Um is a very, very powerful thing. And so Imam Hussein asks her and says, make a prayer for your son. His situation might not be the best it can be. And so she uses the ghurba of Imam al-Hussein, the loneliness of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, as one of the du'as, and also referencing Yaqub and his son as well, and I think Ismail to Hajar, I think. So there are many references that she makes. Please return Ali to me. Which what we hear in the Maqatil, which what we hear in the narrations, and also the Masa'ib that we recite.
It's very powerful, very, very powerful, that dua of the mother, the concept of that. And I think, as you said, in Shabir, to come to you, and I know in the Pakistani tradition as well, Adhan of Ali Akbar on the morning of Fajr is a very big deal, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is said that the beginning of the day of Ashura started from the Adhan of Hazrat Ali Akbar. And there's so much to it. It's not just that azan, it's the fact that Ali al-Akbar resembled the Prophet, and he was declaring through his voice that, you know, the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad, the wilayat of Mulla Ali alayhi salam. And yeah, this is a big thing. Even in Indo-Pak communities, at the time of Fajr, they try and replicate that azan of Allahu Akbar.
I'm just gonna, and again, as we said, for these last few nights, to focus on the masa'ib. So just a tiny bit before we go down that side of it. Given that there is so much emphasis on Ali and Akbar being the resemblance of the Holy Prophet, I think it's important for us to take a step back and maybe just see the picture of Karbala and how it unfolded and what caused it to unfold and how the Prophet is even linked with this. Because it's very rare actually that we hear the Holy Prophet's name being mentioned in terms of like, this is happening because of something that happened to you, Holy Prophet. It's usually referred, this is Yamna Rasulullah, I'm coming out to upkeep the faith of my grandfather. But sometimes we don't connect the oppression that befell on Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam on Yawm al-Ashur with the oppression that was upon the Holy Prophet, his dear daughter, and of course his successor Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the reason why I emphasize that is because in the holy ziyarah of Ashura, again, recommended to recite daily or weekly or monthly, yearly at least, but definitely, scholars really emphasize even daily if you can. The la'an section, which is a critical part of it, فَلَعْنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ وَالْجَوْرِ عَلَيْكُمْ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. And this line is so fundamental because when you read the translation, sometimes people just get occupied with, oh, may the la'an be on those who oppressed you, Ahlul Bayt, generic. And they're thinking, oh, I'm in Ziyarat Ashura mode, this is Yazid, this is Muawiyah, etc., etc. Or maybe not even Muawiyah, it's Yazid, it's Umar ibn Sa'ad, etc. But the lines are very, very, very important here. فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ. Assasa coming from this concept of laying foundations. Now it's not just saying may the la'an be on those who laid the foundations. It's may the la'an be on those who laid the foundations of the foundations. أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ وَالْجَوْرِ عَلَيْكُمْ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. Fine, so we're laying the foundations of the foundations of something. Dhulm, jawr upon Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. Dhulm being this concept that when, and it's a beautiful way they say Allah's given you hands. If you don't use your hands for the purpose that it's meant to be, or you don't use your tongue for the purpose that it's meant to be, speaking well, giving to the poor with your hands, you have done dhulm on your hands. You have misused, or you have something and you've put it out of place as to where it should be. Those who laid the foundations of taking Ahlul Bayt, in this life anyway, away from the position that they deserve to be. The position that they deserve to be was the rightful successor and the only successor and the wasi of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. That is ensuring that Fatima az-Zahra alayhi salam is the queen, if you like, of the mu'mineen, is the lady of the mistress of paradise. So they've taken those who laid the very initial foundation, the first ever time where dhulm and jawr has been against the Ahlul Bayt, where their rights has been usurped. That's not Umar ibn Sa'ad, that's not Yazid, that's not Muawiyah. Yes, they've all contributed and continued that, and may Allah deal with them accordingly. This goes right back to the very beginnings. Right back to the beginnings. And if we miss that beginning, then we can end up in a position where we start to say, oh, all these guys did was just, blunders back then. It's got nothing to do with Karbala, it's disconnected. No, it's fundamentally disconnected. And I'll just end on this point here, because this is something obviously we can talk about for absolutely ages. But it kind of concludes it once and for all when we say, so who are the founders of the wrongdoing of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam? And these aren't my words. This is from His Eminence Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, our holy fifth Imam, where he's reported to say, Wallahi, ma issasat min baliyatin wala qadiyatin tajri alayna ahl al-bayt. I swear by Allah, no calamity has ever been established, nor does any incident happen to us, the Ahl al-Bayt. إلا هما أسس أولها فعليهما لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين. Save that those two established its origin. So upon them be the la'an of Allah, of the angels, and of all of the people. Save for those two being at the core of it. أسست أساس الظلم عليكم أهل البيت goes back to the time when the Holy Prophet said, this individual, Ali ibn Abi Talib, is my wasi. and those started the very foundations of plotting it against him in Saqifa. That leads to Karbala.
Yep.
That leads to the death of Imam al-Kadhim, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Askari, and even today, Daesh continuing. So I just wanted to really emphasize, because we forget Ali al-Akbar, yes, face of the Prophet, that's beautiful, but let's go back to the root as to why we found ourselves here. So inshallah, dear viewers, when you recite this ziyarah, it helps you establish haqq from batil. It helps you clarify history in your heads as well, and reminds you as to what haqq was from the start and what haqq will be forevermore. Inshallah, as we've mentioned during these nights, we're blessed with some beautiful reciters, and I'm really, really honored to inshallah hear the voice with you and together of Mullah Rashid, inshallah.
Abbas, where are you, Abbas? Ruqayya awaits you, Abbas. From the Furat, you never returned. Instead, the water quenched the sand. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. The flag bearer is now armless. Who will carry us through this hell? Bani Hashim's moon has now fell. Our guardian took his last breath. Abul Ghira's absence is felt with his passing. Darkness befell upon leaving. The children wept. Hussein's alone without his help. A servant to his master, truly loyal to his brother, who he put above his thirst, never tasting the water. A servant to his master, truly loyal to his brother, who he put above his thirst, never tasting the water. Abbas, where are you? Abbas, Ruqayya awaits you. Abbas, from the Furat, you never returned. Instead, the water quenched the sand. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. Abbas called out to his dearest, Master, aid me. Death is nearing. Grant me my final and dying wish, and be the last person I see. Do not place me upon your lap. Do not take me back to the tent. Tell Ruqayya to forgive me. This state of mine cannot be seen. From the cradle to his death, his brother did he protect. The truth he defended, sacrificed his right and left. From the cradle to his death, his brother did he protect. The truth he defended, sacrificed his right and left. Abbas, where are you? Abbas, Ruqayya awaits you, Abbas. From the Furat, you never returned. Instead, the water quenched the sand. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. Abbas bids his final farewell, but he knows of what will follow. Brother, my time has now ended. I can no longer protect you. At this moment, Hussein's back breaks and the angels begin to wail. Abu al-Qasim has now left us when we have no other helper. Sincere in his service, never once did he falter. Tried to bring back the water when his journey was halted. Sincere in his service, never once did he falter. Tried to bring back the water when his journey was halted. Abbas, where are you, Abbas? Ruqayya awaits you, Abbas. From the Furat, you never returned. Instead, the water quenched the sand. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. With his wings in the sky, he'll soar, the great gift of his devotion. Abbas patiently waits to greet Hussein at the heaven's door. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Devotion and the very traits of Abbas alayhi salam with his brother Hussein alayhi salam and alongside the son of Hussein, Ali al-Akbar. Ahsantum for the beautiful recitation. I just mentioned this last thing and then Mulla Ali inshallah for the Masa'im. It said that after the companions had been martyred and then the family of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam would be next, if you like. When Ali al-Akbar actually came out, the women surrounded him and were crying and they would say, Irham ghurbatana, have mercy on us as we're strangers in this land. فَلَيْسَ لَنَا طَاقَةٌ عَلَى فِرَاقِكَ, we cannot bear your loss. And it just, that reminder of the Prophet in front of these women, and this would be the final time that they would get to see Ali al-Akbar.
You see, Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, whenever members of the Ahlul Bayt would miss the Prophet, and they all missed the Prophet, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Whenever they missed the Prophet, they missed the speech of the Prophet, they missed the sight of the Prophet, they would look at Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, because he was known to be the resemblance of Ali al-Akbar both in speech, in the way he looks, in his manner, in his akhlaq. And one thing that struck me about Ali al-Akbar, especially when he was going towards the battle, he made that clear, that I am not only the son of Hussein, not only am I the grandson of Imam Ali alayhi salam, but I'm also the family members of the Prophet. So you are essentially coming out to fight members of the Holy Prophet. He wanted to make that absolutely clear. But in terms of the masa'ib of Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, Arbab al-Muqatil say that Imam al-Hussein had a deep, deep love for his son, Abu Abdullah, Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. More than any of the family members, he half didn't want Ali al-Akbar, but at the same time he wanted to set an example and set a precedent that when it comes to his own Ahlul Bayt, his own family members, he will not hold back for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when it came for the time of the battle, after the companions had passed away, after the companions were martyred on the plains of Karbala, Ali al-Akbar now comes to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and asking for permission to go into battle. Not reluctantly, but with a smile on his face, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam granted him permission. But he did say to his dear son, let me hold you one last time. Oh Ali, not only because you resemble the Prophet, but because of my absolute deep love for me. I raised you as a young boy. I raised you as a young man. And now, in the peak of your adult life, at the age of 27, 28, for me to lose my son at this age, after the effort and the work that has gone into raising you, it's very difficult on my heart. But there is another heart, O Ali al-Akbar, that's going to be difficult for her, especially if you leave. Go and say goodbye to your mother Layla in the camp. He goes to the camps and bids farewell to his mother Layla. He bids farewell to his auntie Zainab and rides out towards the battle. As Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam rides out towards the battlefield, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam looks at his son with pride. Looks at his son with pride. Abbas looks at his nephew with pride. Ali al-Akbar comes out and says, I am Ali, son of Hussein, son of Ali. We are the Ahlul Bayt coming in front of you. Ahmi an Abi. And I also defend the loneliness, the ghurba of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. One by one he comes out into the battlefield, fighting off the enemies. This man that was trained by Abil Fadhil Abbas, none of the enemies could get near him, but the armor was heavy, the thirst was killing him. He turns to his father, Aba Abdullah, Ya Abi, the thirst is killing me. Is there any sip of water? He carries on fighting. At the camps, Layla alayhi salam would look towards the face of her husband, Imam al-Hussein, to see how the situation is with her husband. She couldn't see too much into the battlefield. Whenever Imam al-Hussein would smile, she would know that Ali al-Akbar was safe. And whenever he frowns, she would know that Ali al-Akbar is in danger. That moment, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was frowning. Layla says to him, what has happened to my son? He says to her, I fear for my son, I fear for our son. Go back into the camp and pray for our son Ali al-Akbar. She returns into the camp. She sits on the floor. She turns to her Lord and she says, Ya Rad Yusuf ila Yaqub ردد علي حبيبي علي. Oh, the one who returned Yusuf to Yaqub, return my son Ali. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to give them one last embrace. For Ali al-Akbar then returns to the camp. He hugs his mother, embraces her, says his final goodbye. Then he turns to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein saying, I'm thirsty. Oh Hussein, oh father, is there not a drink of water? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam brings him towards him. Maybe there is a bit of saliva in the mouth of Abu Abdullah that he could share with Ali al-Akbar. But Ali al-Akbar turns to Imam al-Hussein and says, your tongue is drier than mine, oh my father. Ali al-Akbar then goes towards the battlefield one last time. أجركم الله يا مؤمنين. They surround Ali al-Akbar, throwing stones, throwing spears, until the enemy become too much for Ali al-Akbar, and the swords and the spears come raining on Ali al-Akbar. At that moment, the blood gushing from the body of Abu Abdullah
Abdullah al-Hussein falls onto the horse and the horse is blinded. Ajarakumullah, instead of returning the horse back to the camp of Imam al-Hussein, the horse headed towards the camp of the enemies. They had no mercy on Ali al-Akbar. Strike after strike until there was a call heard in the skies. Adrikni ya Abi, oh father, come to my aid. Imam al-Hussein rushes towards his son. In what state does he see Ali al-Akbar? And the final moments of Ali al-Akbar, as he was holding him, bidding his last farewell, he could see, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein could see that Ali al-Akbar was smiling and then he would cry. He would smile and then he would cry, for he is now reaching death. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein asks his son, oh waladi, oh my son, why do you smile and why do you cry? Ali al-Akbar's return breaks the heart. He says, for I smile because Rasulullah is coming towards me, giving me a cup from Kawthar. He is quenching my thirst. But oh Abu Abdullah, I cry because I see my grandmother Fatima. She is hitting herself, slapping herself, saying, Waladi ya Hussein. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.
Final moments when Mulla Hussein alayhi salam was looking from the tents and seeing his son fighting. He saw from a distance that a man, may Allah curse him, comes forward with a spear in his hand and he embeds it into the chest of Ali al-Akbar. At that moment, Ali al-Akbar falls onto the ground, and when he falls onto the ground, this man tries to lift him. Imagine a man lifting Ali al-Akbar with the weight of the spear, and with the weight of Ali al-Akbar, the spear breaks, and only the head of the spear is embedded inside his chest. At that moment, Mulla Hussein, it is said according to narrations, he begins to run, but run in the wrong direction. Because according to narrations, it is said that he loses his vision, so he starts crying out to his son, says, oh Ali Akbar, call me towards you. And this young man with a spear in his chest, screaming in pain, calls towards his father. Mulla Hussein says, did I raise you for this day, to see you drowned in blood? This is the ultimate test of a father's love. A spear in your chest, your final anguish cries. My heart is filled with grief, oh apple of my eye. He says, my son, where are you? I can't see. My vision has deserted me. I hear your final cries. To you I try to come, but I stumble and I fall. Each time I try to run, crawling across the sand, upon my hand and knees. Your father's on his way. My son, just wait for me. My son, where are you? I can't see. My vision has deserted me. And what does Mulla Hussein see when he gets to the body of his young son? Ali al-Akbar's breathing is getting shallower and shallower, and his breathing rate's getting faster and faster. His face is covered with sweat and his chest is covered with blood. This broken father who's lifted body after body, whose eyes, his vision is gone, says to his son, Ali al-Akbar is sitting there, lying there with his hand on his chest. He says, These hands upon your chest, what do you hide from me? Is it that you have pain or a wound from which you bleed? Please let your Father help you in your time of need, and move your hands away from there so I can see. What does the son of Hussein reply to his father? My father, don't look down too far. A spear's deep inside my heart. And in these final moments, Imam Hussein looks into the eyes of Ali al-Akbar with all the love he has in his heart. Ali al-Akbar looks back into the eyes of his father, breathing faster and faster as his breaths are slowly ebbing away. Narrators say, the skies are witnessing beneath the scorching sun. A broken father looks down at his dying son, their bodies trembling with tears in their eyes as they embrace one last time as they say goodbye. My father, don't look down too far. Spears deep inside my heart, he says. Father, avert your eyes. How can you stand to see? You know that there's a you know that there's a spear broken inside of me. This hand of mine is trying to hide my fatal wound. It's time, I know my soul will be departing soon. My father, don't look down too far. A spear's deep inside my heart. And in the final moments, according to narrations, the final moments are so graphic. Mulla Hussein's 4 limbs, I'll tell you what he did with them. When he's trying to pull the spear with all the strength he can muster, the spear does not budge. Mulla Hussein puts one of his knees on the burning plains of Karbala, one of his knees on the chest of Ali al-Akbar. He takes the spear with his left hand and then he puts his right hand on top of his left hand. What does he say to his son? He says, son, your father cannot take the spear out. Please help him. Just to give me some traction, put your left arm around my neck and put your right hand upon my hands, which is on this spear, this trembling hand, so that when I pull the spear out, it's not pulled with such force and you're not in so much pain. One knee upon the ground, one knee upon his chest. Upon a broken spear, these trembling hands rest. His arm around my neck, his hand upon my hands. I beg for patience for this test that I withstand, my Lord. This is my sacrifice. My son's dying before my eyes. And as he pulls the spear, he looks towards Najaf. We'll never know why he's looking towards Najaf. One reason might be because he's speaking to his father and saying, oh father, oh the one who lifted the gate of Khaybar with one hand, give me help in these final moments. One reason might be because he cannot bear to look into his son's eyes as he pulls the spear and to see the pain he's in. Looking towards Najaf, I cry out, Ya Ali. The test of Khaybar was nothing compared to this. I pull upon the spear, taking a deep breath in. In my hands is bleeding heart. My son no longer lives. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Ya Allah, بحق علي الأكبر, allow us as the youth of today to be as loyal, as sincere, and as devoted to your cause, Ya Allah, as he was. Ya Allah, for the sake of Hussein alayhi salam, we ask through his sake that you may grant all of our fathers shafa'ah fi dunya wal akhirah. And that we ask you, Ya Allah, bihaqqi Hussein alayhi salam, to forgive our fathers and to forgive us for our shortcomings to our fathers. For we're told that any goodness that we have in our lives and any value that we bring to this earth, it is because of our fathers. And when we look to the father of Ali al-Akbar, we see none other than Imam Hussein. When we look to the father of Imam Hussein, we see none other than Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen, a man with a beautiful father in Abu Talib, and of course trained side by side by the Holy Prophet, who we said earlier. All of this takes place because of the ones who laid the very foundation of oppression against Ali Muhammad back and during the time of Saqifa. So Ya Allah, we ask you, فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ وَالْجَوْرَ عَلَيْكُمْ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. Ya Allah, deal with them accordingly. Insha'Allah, ensure and help us that our traits do not reflect anything like that of theirs. And أَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَإِلَى رَسُولِهِ وَإِلَى أَمِيرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَإِلى فاطمة وَإِلى الحسن وَإِلَيْكَ يا أبا عبد الله. Ya Allah, accept this little from us, and insha'Allah, dear viewers, we'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.